It is a pleasure to introduce Professor José Seade he's the director of the Instituto de Matemáticas from UNAM, and he is one of the leading geometers of his generation in Mexico and in Latin America. So it's an honor to have him as one of the main speakers of the conference. And he's going to speak about Rochlin signature theorem for complex manifolds.
Okay, so it's really an honor to be here. I'm very happy. I'm very grateful for the invitation. I'm very grateful to all of you for being here instead of being there. So thank you.
Well, very fun.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about something I did long ago, mostly what I say is work I did long ago with Hélène Hénault and Descartes Figve. And then I moved into different directions, and since 1 year ago, more or less, I'm coming back with some new things. So I'm going to speak about old things, some new things, and something I'd like to do. So before starting, let me say that the Rocklin signature theorem, I'm sure some of you know, I'm sure some of you don't know what it says. Let me say that somehow one can frame it within the line of thought that, to me, comes from the Riemann-Curve with uniformization theorem, which philosophically one can think that, well, what kind of implications on the topology of manifolds one has from the fact that you have that the manifold admits a type of geometric structure. This goes different to the universalization theorem, but it's also kind of that spirit. It's topological implications of certain geometric structures on the manifolds. And it's a theorem which is for closed form manifolds. I start with that, but then I moved into complex surfaces and then higher dimensions. So let's start with the classical setting. We have a closed-oriented, a form manifold compact with no boundary, that means closed. We have the Stiefel-Whitney classes. And we know that being orientable is equivalent to saying that the first Stiefel-Whitney class is 0. And that means that the structure group of the tangent bundle can be reduced to SO4. And for n more than 2, we have the spin group, which is the universal group of SO of the orthogonal group. This can be defined by this exact sequence. So this is the center is set over 2, and you have the canonical projection. And just spin 3 is isomorphic to the 3 sphere is U2. Spin 4 is this product, and so on. Now, one has a very much related, more general structure, which is one has the complex spin group, which is defined by this exact sequence. And this is relevant because, for example, Rocklin's classical theorem is for spin manifolds, but that's a restriction. Not every whole manifold is spin. Not every complex surface is spin. But every oriented form manifold is spin C. And every complex surface is canonically spin C. Okay? So let me say. We say that a manifold is a spin that, well, you have the spin group comes from that. And having a spin structure is equivalent to saying that the first 2 Stiefel-Whitney classes vanish, and that's equivalent to saying that the classifying map of the bundle has a lifting to the spin group. Okay? This is equivalent to saying that it admits a spin structure. And then if it's a spin structure, means a specific lifting of this map. And okay. Similarly,
Perdón, un segundo, que estoy poniendo por aquí.
Similarly, the manifold admits a spin C structure if and only if
Oh no, sorry about that.
Similarly, a manifold admits a spin C structure if and only if the classifying map leads to spin group. Okay? And admitting a spin C structure is the same as saying that it is orientable and that there is an integral homology class. Remember, a spin meant that the second Stifler-Witten class that lives in here with coefficients in C over 2 vanishes. Spin C means that you have an integral class here whose reduction modulo 2 is dual to the second Stifler-Witten class. Okay? So it's more general. And having a spin C structure, I mean, if it admits a spin C structure, then the different spin C structures are classified by this homology group. Now, this homology group also classifies the complex line bundles over the manifold. Okay, so think if you have a manifold, for example, a complex surface which admits a spin C structure, then the different such structures are classified by the chain classes of the complex line bundles over the manifold. Okay. Okay, so maybe it's not working. Yes, okay, so maybe put all the work. Now, so some remarks. If you have a complex surface, it's a particular an orientable closed manifold. So the complex structure gives you an orientation.
Sorry, we're having all these technical problems. Let me fix it.
Have a compact complex surface, then the complex structure gives you canonically an orientation. It gives you canonical, then the chain class of M reduced modulo 2 is the second Stifler-Witten class. That's a general property of complex bundles. So in particular, the first chain, and we know that the chain class of the tangent bundle is minus C1 of the canonical bundle. So if we have a canonical divisor, that means a divisor of this bundle, then this class, the homology class it represents, is the Poincaré dual of this one when you reduce it modulo 2. Okay? So as a consequence, one has that a complex manifold. So the second Stifler-Witten class is 0 if and only if the canonical class is even. Okay? So a compact complex surface is spin if and only if the canonical class is even. And it is always a spin C, and it has a canonical spin C structure determined by the canonical bundle. Okay? So now let me come to the Rochlin signature theorem. If you have a four-dimensional closed oriented manifold, you have the cut product in homology. In cohomology, corresponds to the intersection pair in homology. And you have a bilinear form, and then by definition the signature of the manifold is the signature of this pair. It's a very important invariant, and long ago Rocklin proved this theorem that if the manifold is spin, then its signature is a multiple of 16. A few examples. S4 obviously has is a spin because its homology groups in dimension 1 and 2 vanish, so the first and second Stifler-Witten class vanish. So it's a spin, but the homology in dimension 2 is 0, so its signature is 0. Okay? CP1, we know that its homology in dimension 2 is isomorphic to the integers generated by one line. Okay? So, and then we know it's an exercise to see that the signature is just 1. If we have a K3 surface which has a richer topological structure, we know that the canonical bundle is triggered, holomorphically triggered. Okay? So it has a canonical spin structure. And its signature is a multiple of 16. definition. If we have a four-dimensional manifold, closed oriented, and a codimension 2 submanifold, we say that this guy is characteristic. If it represents a homology class, that reduced modulo 2 is dual to the second Stifler-Gruppe class. Okay? So all four manifolds admit such submanifolds. This is equivalent to saying, well, somehow it's essentially equivalent to saying that every closed manifold admits a spin C structure, and then this characteristics of manifold corresponds to a spin C structure. It corresponds, we can think of it as being the Chern class of a complex line bond over L. Okay? So Rochlin's theorem was improved later for spin C manifolds in this way. If we have a characteristics of manifold, so if we have a spin C structure that can be represented by an embedded 2-sphere, then the signature is congruent to the self-intersection of that sphere modulo 16. Okay? And then that was later improved in full generality in that dimension in the following way. If we have a characteristics of manifold, maybe a sphere or not, whatever is characteristics of manifold, then we can take the signature minus the self-intersection, and that's congruent to 8 times something which is always 0 or 1, modulo 16. This something which is an invariant is the Arf invariant of a certain quadratic form on this homology group, on this homology vector space. Now, just I will not tell you much about this, just let me tell you that when we have quadratic forms for final dimensional vector spaces over the reals, they are classified by their signature. When we have quadratic forms for final dimensional vector spaces over set over 2, they are classified by the Arf invariant. Okay? How do you define it? It looks like a joke, but it works. If the vector space over set over 2 is final dimensional, you have finitely many elements. Okay? Now, sorry, I forgot to say, the forms have to be non-degenerate. Okay? Now, if you have a form which is non-degenerate on a finite dimensional vector space, it takes all the elements to 0 or to 1, and non-degeneracy means that you cannot take half and half. There are more elements going to 0 or more elements going to 1. If more elements go to 0, the Arf invariant is 0. Otherwise, it is 1. Very simple definition. Okay? So when you have a quadratic form over a set in this vector space, that has an Arf invariant. So this is the Arf invariant of a certain quadratic form here. How does this form arises? Well, we know from the previous theorem that if W is a sphere, then you have a 0 here. So that's a form here that arises by trying to kill the homology of the two-dimensional surface. W is a surface, you try to kill the homology, preserving that they are in the same spin C structure. If you can do it, then you have a sphere and you have the theorem. You say that you know that the right hand is 0. If you cannot, then something arises that's a quadratic form, and that's what you have. Okay. Some remarks that if in this setting, if W is a characteristics of manifold, one can show that the spin C structure on M determines canonically a spin structure of the characteristics of manifold. And then this Arf invariant turns out to be, if you have a spin structure, you have a Dirac operator corresponding to the spin structure. And this Arf invariant is what is called the mod 2 index of the Dirac operator for that spin structure. That means the dimension of the kernel reduced modulo 2. Okay? And also, since this is a spin manifold, it represents an element in the spin cobordism group in dimension 2, which is a cyclic group of order 2. Then again, this number is 0 if and only if this element in cobordism represents 0 in the group. Different interpretations. Now, let's come to complex surfaces. First, gradually. if we have a compact form manifold, we know it's a Tom Hirsebrook signature theorem. This was proved by Tom in dimension 4 and then by Hirsebrook in all dimensions. That the signature of the manifold is 1/3 of the first Pontryagin class, the first Pontryagin number. That's a general theorem. Now, when this is a complex manifold, we know that the Pontryagin classes can be expressed in terms of the Chern classes. It's just this simple formula. That's in general for complex modules in general. So P1 is C1 squared minus 2C2. And we know also that C1 squared, we know that C1 of M is minus the canonical class. So when we square, we have this. And we know that the C2 is general fact, it's just the topological Euler characteristic. Okay, so substituting, we see that the signature minus the self-intersection of the canonical class is this. And then recalling that the second thought polynomial is by definition this polynomial in the Chern classes. And we have that, then we see that this is just plain these numbers. We have this difference is minus 8 times the thought genus of the complex surface. And we know by the Hirsebrook-Riemann-Roch that the thought genus is the analytic Euler characteristic. So putting all of this together, we have that Riemann-Roch, Hirsebrook-Riemann-Roch can be restated for complex surfaces as saying that the signature minus the self-intersection of the canonical class is minus 8 times the analytic Euler characteristic. Okay. I'm interested in this statement because this is what appears in Rochlin's theorem. Okay. So using this, we can just rephrase Rochlin's theorem for complex surfaces as saying that the analytic Euler characteristic that we know it's an integer, its parity is given by this R invariant. That's all what it says. Okay? So this was the starting point of this research I was doing. So we know that in the complex setting, the analytic Euler characteristic mod 2 is this R invariant. Now, in complex geometry, for this to make sense, we need this to be non-singular, because that's the topological definition. But in algebraic geometry, divisors are usually singular. So we'd like to have something similar, but allowing the canonical divisor to be a divisor, an arbitrary divisor. Okay? And so one question here is, what if this thing is singular? Okay? You can always make sense of this, because at the end, the canonical divisor is a section of a bundle. If you forget holomorphic structures, you can always make it transversal to the zero section, so you have a smooth manifold representing the same homology class, and you can work with that. But you are already away from the complex setting, you are away from algebraic geometry. I like to stay in algebraic geometry. So this is one question. And this is the question that we explored with Helene No and the Carl Fickberg, and we answered. I come to that. And then a more subtle question that I've been asking for some time myself is, usually, it's not so usual to have congruences in algebraic geometry. We normally have equalities. So a natural question is, can this be lifted to an equality in some way, maybe adding some correction terms? Or in other words, in the case of complex surfaces, can Rochlin's theorem be lifted to an equality over the integers? Okay. Now, given a complex analytic variety x, say of pure dimension n, we denote by omega sub x the dualizing sheaf, which is this exists and is determined, is the sheaf that gives you the Serre duality isomorphism, which is this one, which for every line bundle you have this homology group is isomorphic to this one. Okay? So the dualizing sheaf is the unique sheaf that gives you this Serre duality. And on the regular part, or if x is non-singular, then the dualizing sheaf is just the sheaf of the canonical bundle. It's canonical. Okay. So definition in general. A theta characteristic or this analytic variety by definition is the isomorphism class of a holomorphic line bundle, which is a square root of the dualizing sheaf. And if X is non-singular, then we know by work of Mumford and Latilla that the square roots of the canonical bundle correspond one-to-one with spin structures. Okay? So this is an algebraic geometric way of thinking on spin structures. The square roots of the dualizing sheaf. Okay. Now, I defined before what is characteristics of manifold. Let me extend that notion to divisors. If we say that a divisor we now have a compact complex surface, is an effective divisor of a bundle L which is of this form. Okay, so W is of the type 2D minus Km. So notice that the reduction modulo 2 coincides with the canonical reduction modulo 2 of the canonical bundle. Okay, and this means that this class in homology reduced modulo 2 is dual to the second Stephen-Winde class. So if these were non-singular, this would be characteristics of manifold. But this is defined for divisors. Okay, and then an exercise is to show that if you have a canonical characteristic divisor, then this bundle restricted to W is a square root of the dualizing sheaf of the divisor. Okay, that's an exercise using the adjunction formula. That means that whenever you have a characteristic divisor, it comes canonically equipped with a theta characteristic. Which is, if you remember, I told you before that when you have a characteristics of manifold, it comes equipped with a spin structure. If you have a characteristic divisor, it comes equipped with an algebraic spin structure, the theta characteristic. Now, definition. If you have a characteristic divisor, it makes perfect sense to consider the restriction of the line bundle D that helps you to define it. So this is a divisor of a formula of type D squared minus D squared tensor K minus 1. You take D, you restrict it to W, you take the dimension of this vector space, modulo 2, and you define this to be the mod 2 index of the characteristic divisor. Just a remark is that if this were non-singular, this is the invariant in Rochlin's theorem. Okay, that's a T. Okay, so we have this mod 2 invariant, but actually we have this vector space, which is the dimension defined over the integers, and we are just looking at this reduction modulo 2. Then the theorem we proved is that the parity of the Euler analytic Euler characteristic is this mod 2 index. Okay. So in particular, this has to equal the Alpha invariant of a smoothing of the canonical class. So this is the Alpha invariant that appears in Rocklin theorem, but now this is defined purely algebraically. And the proof we give of this, I will describe the proof now, is self-contained, very easy, direct, using just algebraic geometry. So we give up. So and more generally, if we have a characteristic divisor, then the dimension of this vector space coincides with the analytical characteristic modulo 2. Okay. Okay. So this provides a proof of Rocklin's theorem for complex surfaces. And this equality, now we have it on modulo 2, but this is defined over the integers, this is defined over the integers. So it makes sense to think how far, or what measures how far this is from being an equality. Okay? So the theorem one can prove is the following. Let M and W be as before. Let me assume one has a statement for W when this is 0. Let me then in that case, one can prove that you have this equal this minus something, where that something is an even integer, which is this thing. I will explain this in a moment. Okay? So this is giving a lifting of Rochlin's theorem to the integers. No, because this is even, so when you reduce modulo 2, you get the previous theorem, which is Rochlin's theorem. Now the sad thing is, the sad thing is that I can prove this, but I don't know what it means. I mean, I don't know what it says. It's something you prove it. Here's the formula, and I like to say something intelligent about it. That's I cannot do it for the moment. Let me give a sketch of the proof. You can consider this exact sequence. This is the section. This is the section that defines the canonical bundle S. So you have this where S is induced by that multiplication by that section. Now, whenever you have an exact sequence of sheaves, you have an associated long exact homology sequence. You write it. Then, since this is exact, you know that the dimension of the kernel is the image of this, etc. You add up. Sorry, before that, you can put a 0 here, replacing this by the image, and you still get an exact sequence. So from this one, you get this short exact sequence. And then you know that the dimension of this minus this plus this minus this equals 0 by exactness. So you get this. And before we change, and we know that the image of alpha, the dimension, is the dimension of the kernel of beta. So you can replace this by the dimension of the kernel. Okay? Now, we have series duality, we have this, and we can substitute everything, and we have this. Okay? Then you can just play with this thing, you can rewrite, and you get that H0 is this plus what the statement said. Now it remains to prove that this thing is an even integer. Okay? This thing is just everything which is left from that equality. Okay? Now, we have to prove that R is even. Now, that this group is even dimensional is easy because we have the Cobb product in homology. That's a skew bilinear. Then when you take it to the canonical form, it has to be even dimensions. Okay? So this has to be even dimensional. And well, this obviously is even dimensional. You have a 2 there. And it remains to see that this guy is even dimensional. And that's again an exercise. It's just writing things and seeing that this beta can be regarded as a map, as a bilinear map here, which is essentially given by the multiplication by a's and then this guy. But then again, this is a skew form on an even dimensional vector space. Okay. So the kernel has to be even dimensional. And then we're finished. Okay. So this proves that Rochlin's theorem, which is a Congress modulo 16, can be refined to become an equality over the integers. And so we have the only characteristic on one hand, analytic, and analytic invariance associated to the characteristic divisor on the other side. So what I'd like to understand is what that equality is saying. I cannot do more than that for the moment. So let me move into higher dimensions. Let me say that there are generalizations of Rochlin's signature theorem for closed manifolds, spin C manifolds of dimension, real dimension 8k plus 4. And equipped with a characteristic submanifold, which means a codimension 2 submanifold that represents an integral homology class, which is a Poincaré dual of the second Stephen Whitney class. So the same definition. And I will will not come into this version. Let me describe the generalization we gave. And so now let M be a compact complex manifold of pure dimension 4k plus 2, complex dimension 4k plus 2. Then we define a characteristic divisor in just the same way. It's an effective divisor of a bundle of this form. Then again, this modulo 2 coincides with this. So if this were smooth, this would represent the characteristics of manifold. And then again, the conjunction formula gives you that the bundle D gives you a theta characteristic on W. And so definition again, basically the same. Generalization. Now in this case, the corresponding mod 2 index before k was 0. So the mod 2 index was the dimension of H0. Now it's the dimension of all these dimensions from 0 to 2k. Okay? Again, when W is non-singular, then the theta characteristic becomes a spin structure, and that is the Artesian mod 2 index. And then the theorem is that this mod 2 index coincides with the analytical characteristic modulo 2. The proof is essentially the same proof as before, just that the long exact sequence now gives you a not so short exact sequence. And then you have to do more computations. Everything is a little more complicated, but it's essentially the same as before, using Serre's duality and exactness. Proof. And then, so all the above arguments can be refined to get actually an equality, just as before. But if in dimension 2 I don't understand what the equality says, in high dimensions I don't understand it at all. So the problem which I think is an interesting question is, so philosophically the problem is understanding the relation between the geometry and topology of the complex manifold and that of the characteristic divisor. That is the problem which is lying behind all this discussion. Or in a bigger form is what restrictions or implications on the topology of a complex manifold one has from the fact that it admits a theta characteristic. So that Rocklin's theorem taken into this setting is a theorem about this question. And well, I have a few minutes. Just let me say that I work more in singularity theory, and my interest in this was coming from a different related question. I don't have it in the slides, so let me explain it, which is the following. When you have, say, if you have an isolated normal complex singularity, which is, when you have, in that setting, you have what is called the geometric genus of the singularity, which is you take H1 of a resolution with coefficients in O, and the dimension of H1 of the resolution is the geometric genus, and it does not depend on the choice of the resolution. And for some reasons, I was interested in studying the parity of the geometric genus. I knew that if the singularity was smoothable, then that geometric genus was essentially the alpha invariant in Rocklin's theorem. But I wanted to know if that was still true without having smoothing, because it was not used. Then all of this allows us to say things for complex, normal, isolated, complex singularities which are Gorenstein of complex dimension 4k plus 2. And what the idea is the following. You take the singularity 0. You can assume in dimension 2 that it is algebraic. So you can compactify it by adding a divisor at infinity. And you can assume up to resolution of singularities that the manifold, the variety you get, which is now compact, is smooth at infinity. now you can resolve this resolution, and you have a complex manifold as we have here. You apply all this machinery, work with it, and get something. And that something is exactly telling you that for normal Gorenstein singularities, the parity of the geometric genus is H0 of the canonical bundle restricted to the canonical class when that one is it's a positive class. So for the minimal resolution. So it is giving you information about the geometric genus of resolutions of singularities. And that's it. Thank you.
Any questions?
So, for surfaces, your problem is just to understand this term, this R.
Yes.
So, in which terms would you like to have it? Because you have the formal. So,
Yes.
what is unsatisfactory?
This is obviously very much related. One point of view is this can be regarded as an index problem, a T-Singer type index theorem. So one can try to understand it in that setting. The problem is that you are working with the Dirac operator on a two-dimensional manifold, and then in that case, the only thing which makes sense is a mod 2 index. Now, can you do better using the complex structure? That's where I'm stuck.
Thank you for the nice talk. I think this is just a general comment that in algebraic surfaces there is, as you know, this whole problem of geography, which surfaces. So you have, for an algebraic surface, the given numerical invariants, the Hodge numbers, the index, stuff like that. And you have inequalities among them, Bogomolov-Yau, Euler, Euler, and so on. So there was the old problem of when you plot all these numbers, which of them are realized by smooth complex surfaces. In recent years, Catanese and his students have reformulated the question where you allow certain singularities that are in the nature of the ones that turn up in the minimal model program. And if you allow those singularities, then pretty much you get everything satisfying the known constraints. Among those singular surfaces, they behave very nicely, so the dualizing chief is a line bundle, Riemann rock, vanishing, and things like that work almost like on a smooth. But there are constraints coming from those which can be smooth, but they cannot all be smooth. They may just be singular things that you cannot move into something smooth. There are constraints coming from the topology when the thing is smoothable. That's not understood. And I don't know if these types of constraints from coming out of the stuff that you were doing would have anything to say about that.
I don't either, but it's very interesting. Thank you.
You know, basically one is thinking about surfaces. You should toss in all these as well as the smooth ones.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be back